Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 587. We are live tonight. It is Thursday, July 11th. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Jim.
Hey.
And Paul.
Howdy.
And Anna.
Good evening.
So thank you guys for joining us tonight. We may also have a Phil stop by as well randomly, because I know Paul is joining us, but it may be short-lived because he is currently on vacation. So thank you for taking time out of your busy vacation schedule there, Paul.
Listen, I can't stand that Phil guy. When he shows up, I'm out.
Yeah. There you go.
Way to do it. It's the way to do it. If you can't dislike your friends, who can you dislike?
I'm not going to answer that.
Excellent. And I think we're going to have a nice long show tonight of people not answering questions. It'll be beautiful.
There you go. Yeah, we are all very excited for this topic. So, Anna, what is the topic?
So I decided that I wanted to bring up a topic that it's been on my mind for years. And it's the reason that I decided to talk about it tonight is not the reason that it's been on my mind for years, because the reason I decided to talk about it tonight just happened. But just as certain things come out that are Transformers branded that some of us might want, but not particularly love that particular, object or type of game or type of item or whatever, I remember many times seeing in GameStops that oversized Pop Unicron, right? And thinking, that's kind of cool, right? The oversized Unicron. Like, it was kind of a neat little figure by itself. But I hate pop figures, right? I don't collect anything from Funko Pop, right? Like, I don't touch them. I don't like them. I don't really like the, modern day Beanie Baby feel of them being everywhere and kind of overhyped and everything. So I avoid them. They're kind of out of my collecting comfort zone. And then this crossover happened, and I shared videos with people, and people thought the videos looked cool for this game called Overwatch 2. That's what happened last week. People started talking about the Overwatch 2 Transformers crossover, which, if you're not familiar with the game Overwatch 2, it's an online shooter. It's a team-based hero shooter. You play as different heroes. You try to beat the other team at various different things, mostly claiming spaces or getting kill counts and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So
you have
sort of capture the flag.
There's a mode that's very similar to capture the flag, yes. And Overwatch, the original
quotable
game.
It was awesome. The game was kind
super
of
quotable, great designs. They really went for this kind of DreamWorks style, pretty art and fun, wild characters and this big variety, everything from robots to psychic type characters, whatever. So it was a very popular game. The original Overwatch was. Overwatch 2 is the same game, basically the free-to-play model, where you pay money for skins and characters and whatnot in order to really play the game, which has not been as widely loved as the original game was, but is still successful enough. And all the time they have different collabs, right? They have different collaborations where you can buy with real-world currency. You can buy skins to make particular characters, of which there are 40, look like characters from other things. In this case, in the Transformers collaboration, you can get yourself a Megatron and an Optimus Prime and an RC and a Bumblebee on characters that don't make a whole lot of sense to be wearing their skins, but you know what? They looked really cool in the trailer and really awful in the actual game graphics when those pictures came out. But my question was to everyone, who is going to go pick up freaking Overwatch in order to do a Transformers crossover? Right? So I guess I want to start that. Like, has anyone ever bought into any of these game collaborations with Transformers just so they can have their Transformers in a video game?
I bought and still own and still utilize a Xbox 360 avatar of War for Cybertron Starscream, or maybe it's Fall of Cybertron Starscream. That is my gamer tag avatar, and I will never let it go at this point because you can't buy that anymore. And
Yeah, because they do
I
limited
didn't even
gamer
know
tags,
what I was
right?
doing when I bought it. Sorry?
I said they do limited gamer tags, right? That you can only buy forever so long.
I think they're like what do you call them? They're like mods for your
Okay.
Xbox gamer avatar. Like it's when you look at my profile, like I'm War for Cybertron Starscream.
Well, considering that that game, like High Moon Studios, like no longer exists, and I don't think Activision has the rights to publish the games anymore, I would say that it's probably safe that you're not going to be able to purchase that again.
That's a good point, Lucas. Who would you even buy it from at this point, right? Paul, I guess. Paul has it, so you can buy it from him.
I don't know that you could. I don't know how that works.
I'd have to sell the whole thing.
Work.
Right.
Let's
just to get your Starscream avatar, yeah.
Not doing it. Like selling Savini Jason for the Friday the 13th people out there. That was the same problem.
Yeah, I know Ron mentioned that he brought the Transformers Fortnite skins, and I can't remember on that. Like, if you could get Optimus Prime, like, did you have to get the Gamer Pass for that and, like, complete a certain number of levels? I don't remember, because I thought, like, a couple of them, like maybe Bumblebee or something like that you could just buy the skin. But I'm very adamant in not having my kids spend their money on Fortnite skins, so I feel like I would be, like not justified if I like went and spent a bunch of money on Fortnite skins after I told my kids how much of a waste of money it is.
A teeny bit hypocritical.
Yeah, right.
I got another really good one. Anna, you'll love this. I hope this will open up some discussion because I think it's perfect. I got back into Magic cards because of the Brothers War Transformer shit. I'm still in it because of that.
Are you still playing?
Ooh.
Nice.
I'm playing Arena every day. Every day. I feel like I know more about Magic than I ever did when I was a child. Like, this is not, I'm not saying this is good, but I was trying to get those Transformer cards, and the Discord was going to play the game. And that's why, remember, we all bought the same bundle from Amazon. We were going to play the game, and then, like, it just didn't ever happen.
Still have my cards.
What?
I said I still have my cards.
Me too. And I'm sure my deck sucks, but, it's there.
Oh, I know mine sucked. But yeah, that is a really good example, because that was one of those things. Like, I used to play Magic, right? Like, a lot of us in the Discord at one point played Magic. I played for a very long time, and I was competitive in tournaments and stuff. I was really into it in my teens and early 20s. And I thought that, like, I was like, oh, it's a Transformers crossover of something I know that I love, I know that I enjoy. I'll get back into it like Paul did. And I didn't, right? I just had no interest because the collab was short-lived, right? Like, it was just one set of cards that weren't standard legal, because I only liked playing in standard. I liked playing the competitive tournament scene, and they just weren't. They were fun and novel, but not useful to me. And I guess in a way, like, I tried to step out of my comfort zone, because the one thing I never did in Magic is I never collected Magic. I always played Magic, right? I didn't care if I owned my favorite character's card or the funnest art or whatever, I didn't need to own it if I wasn't using it in a deck. So I had the same mindset when it was like, oh, you could hunt down the Shattered Glass characters that were worth way too much money when the set first came out because they were ridiculously rare. Or you could hunt down all the Transformers and not use them in your decks because they aren't very good cards. And I didn't, right? It wasn't motivating for me. So I was not able to step out of my comfort zone, basically.
Well, maybe Magic is cumbersome to play in real life. Okay, I mean it's fun and it's gotten better over the years. But once I played it digitally, I was like suddenly everything clicked because I wasn't worried about holding the cards right or picking the time, like figuring out the stage I was in. I didn't get any of that strategy. But playing it online because I was getting the physical card, getting the physical cards, and then we didn't actually play in Discord, got me to re-download Arena and start playing. And they had skins, card backs, that were a Transformer pack of card backs. And that's the only time I've spent money on that game.
Nice, okay.
And it is so awesome when I play someone else that has one of those Transformer card backs. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, this guy's just going to quit on me. He's going to stick around. And what's also cool is when you click the card, any of the cards with that back, they transform and make the sound, like in the game.
Oh, that's fun.
That's fun.
Nice. So, like if Starscream art is released, it's out there somewhere. You can see all the art. But, like, there's a robot mode image and a vehicle mode image for each of the cards. Because in the real game, you flipped them to get, like, when they would transform and have different abilities. And they animate it with the skins. So those are all the really toy stuff I bought in the past, maybe like 5-10 years.
Now, when they transform, did they have the OG Transformer sound, or was it more like the sound of folding paper in the manner of the G1 sound?
No, it's legit. It's good.
Okay. Because if they made it sound like paper, that would be fun too.
Yeah, that's cool. And honestly, I don't try to get into Arena because I think it would be just like you. I think it would work for me because I think it wouldn't have the cumbersome thing of having to go out and get physical cards and keep them in boxes and decide when I needed to sell something, when I needed to keep something, etc. Like, it would just be like, oh, they're digital cards. Who cares? I'm playing Hearthstone again, only it's Magic now, so it's better. Because I got into Hearthstone for a hot minute, and I realized I was in grad school, and I realized that I was like not writing papers I needed to write because I was really wanting to play Hearthstone more. So I was like, oh, probably shouldn't do this. And I kind of feel like the same thing, right? Like when I don't show up to teach one of my own classes because I've got some Magic to play, could be problematic. I was deep. I was really into Magic back in the day.
Well, I will say this, and this is not an advertisement for the game, but it's the only game that I can play on my phone that doesn't cost me money and is literally fun and not like just buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, like constantly. It's a legit game you can play on your phone, like without having to be bombarded by ads.
And that's cool. Yeah, it does actually sound like a worthwhile game to play. Like, totally, other than like me worried about addiction level decision making of my own. Most people don't get that heavily into card games. They just know I do. I just know I do. And I was actually, this is a good segue into another time one of us kind of did something I didn't expect, is with the Transformers card game, right? The Transformers TCG from a few years back. I would have never expected my friend Lucas to get into a collectible card game. Like, me and Paul, like, we're the collectible card game types, right? Like, we're the kids you expect were hanging out at the card shops back in our teens and hanging out with the artsy types and all that sort of thing. But Lucas, I didn't expect you to get into a card game, but you did more than I did.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I actually, when we're doing it, like, I was actually going and playing weekly with a group of people. Like we met at a card shop or whatever game shop up in North Kansas City every day. So I mean, part of it is like I knew it was like kind of a cool new game, and I wanted to like start something for TF Expo. Because I thought it'd be fun to like have a tournament or whatever for that. But yeah, like it was a really cool game. And part of it too is like my kid was also getting into some of that collectible card games like Pokemon. And so, I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of like learn that. It's like, oh, this one's Transformers. And, that game was really cool too because it wasn't quite as involved as like some of the other games. Like it's kind of like an almost like intro to like trading card games. So like I don't know, I really liked it. I thought it was neat. I wish that it didn't die. Like it essentially died with COVID. It just like wasn't really popular enough to kind of keep it going. And I know don't they have that new like card game? I can't remember what it's called. Like, but it's not really the same.
No, so the Transformers TCG was a traditional collectible card game, right? Like made by Wizards of the Coast, kind of that same Magic the Gathering / Pokemon / Yu-Gi-Oh, where you buy cards, you build decks, you own your own cards, you're hunting for rares, you're using the rares to make these cool killer decks and that kind of thing. The game that's out now, which is released by, it's called Renegade Studios, right? Renegade Games is the company that's making it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Renegade Games is making these deck building games, as they call them. And deck building games are different. You basically buy them like a board game set, and then you use the cards as part of the game to kind of build your deck as you go along. It's a whole genre of basically board card game hybrid type deals. And generally, there are really good deck building games out there. And from what I've heard, the Transformers one is not one of them.
Yeah,
but it's also not that same, collectible aspect.
I'm kind of surprised, like, because the game's still going, right? Like, I don't think it's that they've like canceled the game. Like, they're still releasing expansions and stuff for it, right?
I think Renegade still has the license right now to make all because they're doing, G.I. Joe and My Little Pony. Right. They're doing bunches of Hasbro properties. I think they still have the license. I don't think it's been particularly super successful or a straight up failure. So I think they've just kind of kept doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting because I actually felt like the Transformers TCG, while obviously it is not at the level of the mainstream collectible card games, like I felt like a lot of the community, like Transformers community, was into it. And like it seemed like it had like a decent following, and like people still play it today. Like there's a couple online groups that I follow that they like continued printing cards and making like kind of like their own cards to kind of supplement. But like I literally have never heard of anyone playing that Renegade Studios game, and I know they've been at TFCon. And done some stuff too, but it just doesn't really seem like it's caught on. And like I bought the original one, and I think I'd never actually ended up like opening and playing it.
I don't think you've opened it.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't
know. We
talked
about playing it together.
Phil, Jim, have you gotten into any of those kind of games?
I never did. I'd not heard of Renegade Studios either. I remember the one from a few years back, but no. As far as card games like that, the furthest I got into something like that was maybe about 99. That when Pokemon first came out, me and a couple friends kind of got into it a little bit. I got like 3 decks, but we never really went anywhere with it. Tried playing a few times, but. Like was mentioned previously, it was just one of those things that was cumbersome, and you had to rotate the card a certain way for this. If your character's stunned, or rotate it the other direction, or flip it over, put it in this pile.
Yeah, I
like
the
holofoil effect was neat though.
And that's one of the draws with those collectible games, right? They make the really fancy, like back then, the foil cars, the shinies. That was the first time those were really getting big, right? They started in Magic slowly, and then in Pokemon they kind of exploded at that point. And now it's gotten to the point where they make like all sorts of different type of cards that are like, different types of foils, different types of this and that and the other.
Had a foil Kangaskhan, a foil Poliwrath, and a foil Mewtwo. I don't know if those are worth anything. These were Gen 1.
Maybe, I have no idea.
G1 Pokemon. There's the crossover.
Yes.
What about wrestling? Doesn't wrestling sort of have like a tangential thing with Transformers, Phil? At least in your past few weeks.
Just the artist who draws Transformers now is into wrestling and throws some few things in.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
he does like this that weird wrestling moves. I mean, he wouldn't show up
the guy,
events, right?
The guy that does the music for AEW, Mikey Ruckus, is a Transformer collector. He's on the 2005 boards.
That's right.
So there's another connection. That's actually where I first met him was years ago. He was trying to audition for. He was going to try to go for Revenge of the Fallen for the score for the movie, right? Which ultimately went to Steve Jablonsky. So he put out this. It was like must have been like 10 or 12 minute long piece that he uploaded and shared with the folks on the boards. And it was pretty stellar. Had a little touch of Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way mixed in. But no, years later he ended up landing a gig, and he does the music for AEW wrestling. He got to do the theme for Sting. I mean, just all kinds of fun stuff.
That's cool.
But that's the only really wrestling connection I can think of, aside from an indirect Sergeant Slaughter connection.
That's a good. I like you bringing up the wrestling connection just because I really wish Christian was here, because as you may have heard from him on various shows, he's not a big fan of the Skybound run. And one of the reasons he doesn't like the Skybound run is G.I. Joe, right? We know that. But another of the reasons is he also does not feel very warm about professional wrestling. He doesn't like professional wrestling. And when suddenly there's wrestling moves, Optimus Prime is doing various cool wrestling moves, and the wrestling fans in the audience are like, ooh, this is fun. And I'm like, well, this is goofy as hell. I like it. And Christian's like, I don't want to be reading stupid wrestling comics, right? So I feel like sometimes the brand will try to brain us out of our comfort zone and be like, hey, why don't you enjoy Transformers with some wrestling thrown in? And some fans will be excited and some fans will be like, I don't do wrestling. I ain't touching that. It's just like, we I tried to bring up the video game topic, right? And all of you are like, no, I never tried any of those, right? Except for Paul, a little tiny bit, trying those.
I just remembered another one. The voice for Predaking was Samoa Joe. In, what was that, Power of the Primes? Or
I never knew Predaking of any kind had a voice except for Beast Hunters, which is not really Predaking.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a dialogue. I mean, he kind of lost his head.
I mean, of course, we have the most infamous wrestling crossover, right, was The Rock doing Cliff Jumper's voice for 20 whole minutes in Transformers Prime.
That is true.
But again, like that one was subtle enough. Like he's a good actor anyway. So like no one who doesn't like wrestling was like, oh man, this guy did a bad job of doing Cliff Jumper's voice. They were just like, oh okay, that was fine. Right? Not as blatant as the wrestling that Daniel Warren Johnson brings into the comics.
As we've discussed, Anna, that was a expansion of the Cliff Jumper archetype. Correct? What did you say?
Correct. It brought a little more to the cliff jumper. He's not just like this paranoid adventure guy. He's also got a little bit of the rock in him now. And a little bit of frequent death. But,
I mean, they could have always went with Energon.
I was gonna mention though, like, I feel like some of these like random crossovers, like Overwatch and whatnot, like, is it like it's kind of like a synergistic kind of thing where it gets people that are like casually into Transformers to who might be playing Overwatch to kind of like collect those skins or whatever, but then also bringing Transformers fans, but like I feel like a lot of those, I don't know, like, you mentioned pops too. Like, I feel like usually I collect pops of stuff that, like, I'm not going to collect otherwise, if that makes sense. So it's like, oh, that I have, like, maybe, like, I like Guns N' Roses. So it's like, I'm going to get an Axl Rose pop, right? Because there's, like, nothing else that I could get of that or whatever. Or, like, I don't want to really get into, I don't know, whatever. Something like maybe you don't want to get into Ghostbusters or something. You just want to have one figure of a Ghostbusters thing. So you get the Ghostbusters pop. So it kind of goes in with the rest of it. Like, I feel like, you kind of have, if you have, like, a broad swath of different, like, pop culture things that, like, you're collecting, that's where you might collect pops compared to, us where we have 1,000 Transformers. And unless you're certain people like Nick or whatever that want to collect everything that has a Transformers brand logo on it, that you're not going to collect those pops.
Yeah, I get that. Like, you could not. Unicron didn't pull me over, right? Like, I literally saw it in shops and liked how it looked and said, no, I'm not going to buy a pop figure. I've never bought a pop figure. I'm not going to buy a pop figure. I don't buy pop figures. Even the Beast Wars Super 7 reaction figures, I kind of feel the same way about reaction figures as I do pop figures. And even though the Beast Wars ones actually do look pretty nice, right? Like, those are good sculpts. They're very solid. I'm not buying those either. Even though I'm like, oh, I like those. It's just like, I don't do Super 7 reaction. I've done their ultimates with much regret, but I don't do the reaction figures. So much regret. But yeah,
I have some good feelings about some of the pops. Very specifically, like the Unicron one I like because it's toyetic. It's HasLab Unicron is what that is. It's not, it's very specifically a certain kind. And there was an exclusive Bumblebee, I think, that was Classics Bumblebee. And they had another one that wasn't. That was G1. And so it was kind of like, whoa, only someone like me would even recognize that. I don't know why that was cool. It's not like I'm saying pops are awesome, but it was either a mistake, like they sent the wrong key art and the guy just started sculpting Classics Bumblebee for some reason, or they very specifically decided to be that. I don't know which one it was, but it made it somewhat more collectible, in my opinion. But I hope we don't get every Transformer character as a pop like that. I don't ever want to see that happen. Please no.
Right.
Pop Slugfest.
Now, is the Unicron for the people that missed out on the HasLab and are like, you know what, I want to get my representation of Unicron?
I actually felt like that was kind of the case, right? Because it was pretty well coordinated as far as when it came out, and it was like, oh, I don't have my Unicron. Well, I'm going to go to GameStop and buy me a big old Popacron, and it'll be okay. Super 7 also did the toy prototype Unicron, right? And that was another one of those, like, try to get me to step out of my comfort zone and buy a Super 7 figure. And I was like, oh, I really do like it when people homage that particular prototype. It's fun. I still didn't buy it because I don't do that. Don't do them. Didn't touch it.
Secret regarding that. You know, the artwork we get on the front of our thumbnails over and over and over again, the pink Unicron, it's the Super 7 toy.
Nice. A secret.
Didn't realize that. I didn't have a prototype sitting around to take that photo of. It was the Super 7 one.
That's because you're a casual. It's okay. Real fans got the prototypes.
By the way, you can
around.
buy the Unicron Pop on eBay right now for $14.
Yeah, they get clearance to hell. Like, as a lot of things sold at GameStop do get clearance pretty heavily. It got sold deeply clearanced. But one time I did actually try one of these game crossovers that I very quickly regretted was, I don't know if you guys remember, a little thing called Transformers Angry Birds. I absolutely hate Angry Birds. I do not enjoy trying to play that game. It's not fun to me, but I was like, but it's Transformers. I'll play it. And I still hate Angry Birds.
Now, they brought in Dan Bush and Vince DiCola for that, didn't they?
Did they? Jeez.
The music was exceptionally good in that game. It was very... There was some cool stuff about that game. The fact that there's toys at all blows my mind.
Right?
You don't suppose they're going to bring those in the Studio Series, do you? No. No.
But you played it, Paul. You actually played the Angry Birds Transformers.
There you go.
It came out right when a TFCon in Chicago was happening. And I remember because I was in a room with 4 other guys, and like, Phil, it was me and Shane, and we were both playing the game until we like went to sleep. It was like that weekend it came out. It's like 3 in the morning. I'm playing Angry Birds, and I'm waking up at 7 to run a booth or something the next day. You know, silly, stupid stuff. Here's a tip: don't ever pay any money on any of these Transformer mobile games. Just don't. It's not worth it. It is very late. Spend $0, please.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Transformers Earth Wars is a fantastic mobile game.
But still, don't spend any money. Don't spend any money. Even if you're in the top league or whatever, just don't do it. What does this do for you? Nothing.
I mean, it's like any other
it's another
game,
genre.
Paul.
Yeah, I don't play mobile games like that, so I also didn't play that one. I did try what was that one called? Was it Forged to Fight? The one that was supposed to be like a fighting game?
Yeah.
And that it has now gone over to Netflix gaming for some asinine reason. But anyway,
really?
that one I did download. I downloaded it, I tried it, and it didn't play enough like a real fighting game for me because I like traditional console fighters.
It wasn't a fighting game. It was like a pattern game. But there was one super cool thing that came out of that game, in my opinion. And I don't know if we'll ever see it. I would love to. The Sharkticon is incredible. The design of the Sharkticon in that game. It's the way it always should have been. It looks like a real shark. It's just so cool. And I would love a toy of that.
Yeah, you do see cool, unique designs do come out of some of these games. And that is the neat thing about them.
Yeah,
well,
other Sharkticon
we also have that game coming out, the Transformers Renegades. Is that right? Like, we already had some toys for it.
Reactivate.
Reactivate. Sorry, Reactivate.
Whatever they're calling
it. That's another good example of a comfort zone thing, right? Because Reactivate is... We actually don't know what kind of game it is yet, right? We've been told it's some sort of... It sounds like it might be some sort of Left 4 Dead style formula where you play on a team against monsters of some sort. Aliens are attacking and Autobots and Decepticons are teaming up to fight them, I think, with the plot. And, that could be fun. But I get a strong feeling it's a first-person shooter. And I am so bad at first-person shooters that, I can't figure out how to walk in a straight line or how to aim at things. Like, that is just, I play a lot of video games, and first-person shooters are not something I can do. So I kind of had to already suck it up and say, Reactivate could be the best game. It could be Doom level. It could be just wow, this is revolutionizing first-person shooters, and I'm out. I'm just not going to play it.
Speaking of Doom or Left 4 Dead, is the game even still coming out, or has it been Left 4 Dead? Is it doomed? Because I've not heard or seen any update on it in ages, outside of the figures, the 2-packs, and then that original trailer. And that's it, right? Has there been any update?
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of
There's
surprised they
been
didn't just like ship it in whatever with like whatever crappy state it was in, because I assume that Hasbro, by the time they were promoting it and everything, was like kind of expecting it to come out like within 6 months to a year. And yeah, like now it's pretty much just like, you know.
Yeah, because they scrapped it to overhaul the engine, right? Because they were like, we're not happy with it. We're going to restart it. We're going to do it with a new engine. But then again, they said that. However, we never saw a single gameplay video, right? It's not like they showed us gameplay videos and people were like, ew, we don't like this. No, they never showed us anything and claimed they scrapped it to restart. And there was some sort of post a couple of days ago or today or something like that where the studio making it said nothing's canceled officially. Like they're like, no, it's not canceled. It's not canceled. We haven't canceled anything. So I guess it might come out someday. Who knows what kind of game it might be. It might be Angry Birds Transformers 2 by the time it comes out, right? Who knows what it'll become.
It had to die so Metroid Prime 4 could live.
Sure. That's a good example of comfort zones, though, because I tried to play Metroid Prime because I love Metroid. Just couldn't do it. I can't navigate in first person. Does not work.
Hey, it is a beautiful game, though.
I know. All the games are great.
One thing I thought was interesting, so we did have a game announcement, like, what was it, a couple weeks ago?
Yep.
What's that game called again?
Don't remember.
I was trying to look it up.
I think it's Transformers
Galactic
Position,
Tracks.
isn't it?
Transformers
Galactic Tracks. I had the game completely wrong.
That-
Yep. I made up my own name. Galactic Trials.
I can't keep up.
So it's like a racing game, right?
So it honestly looks like it's a fighting and racing game, but I swear to you, it looks like they took some of the stuff from the High Moon games, like animations and stuff, and like packed it into a generic game. Like maybe I'm completely wrong, and like this is just coming from the trailer, but it reminds me of some of the like racing and things like that you would do in the High Moon Studio games, and some of the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it almost looks like they just took some of those characters or whatever, reskinned some of the stuff and then threw it up on generic backgrounds. And maybe I'm crazy, but I swear it just seems like that. But like, it's interesting that they've already announced it, like it's shipping October 11th. Like they have a packaging and all that kind of stuff. Like it definitely seems like it's coming out, but it does not look like it is not a AAA game, I should say.
No, it doesn't look AAA at all. And again, I don't play racers, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to touch that one. Like I might try it. I just know I'm really bad at racing games. So I don't know. If it's
at
a
least play Mario
hybrid game
Kart.
enough. No, I hate Mario Kart. I'm so bad at it. Like the biggest torture for me the whole time I played through the torture that was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the recent second part of the remake, was that they took the Chocobo racing in that and they turned it into this full Mario Kart style, like decently made racing game. And I had to play for hours and hours to unlock the stuff you get from it because I'm so bad at racing games. I'm bad at a lot of games. Just certain genres I'm good at, or mediocre. Anyway, but I do think that's a good example though. Just kind of like, I already know that if it's a racing game, it's gonna be a step for me, right? Now the whole cast was like, hey, we're all gonna buy this game and we're all gonna play together. I think I could do it, right? I think I could get out of my comfort zone. I think I'd do it for Reactivate too. If Reactivate turns out to be a 4-person Left 4 Dead style first-person shooter, and the rest of the cast is like, I want to play together, I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to spend my $50, $60 to play with you guys. And I'm going to suck, and you're going to wish that I wasn't playing with you, but I'll be there. I think I do it in that case.
All right,
There
well,
just
and
has to
I'm
be
going to
some
get
sort
it.
of little appeal.
And so specifically, I want to be able to play you when it comes out.
Okay, great. I'll do it. But it's like that's almost a bridge, because it's like a comfort zone for me is playing a game I don't like, but playing games with my friends is extremely appealing, right? That's something I really like to do.
Right.
So it's like it almost patches over the whole problem. Like any bit of whininess I had making me play a shooter, ew, I can get over because my friend's there. Our friends, multiples.
So yeah, so there you go. There's getting out of your comfort zone for the new game.
Right.
To tie it all back.
Right. I'll do it. I'll do it to play with my friends. That I will do, as long as there's some sort of friend motivation to it. Why not? Why not try it? I was gonna try, if you remember, for a hot minute there, Niantic was going to make a game that was going to have some Pokemon Go flavor to it of Transformers.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that didn't happen. I'm not really like I didn't love Pokemon Go, but I would definitely play Transformers Go, right? Like that would be fine. I go for dog walks and go to cyber stops or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder
That
why they
sounds
canceled
different.
that.
I just doubt. I bet it was going to be a fraction of the user base in the end
Oh,
compared to
sure.
the Pokemon. It would have been fun to have a little microcosm game, where clearly you understand something about Transformers. If you're battling with Shockwave 69 or something every day to get stopped by your house.
They made those games were really like everybody was trying to make their own Pokemon Go for a while there, and one I played was a Garfield one that was so bad. It was like I played it just because it looked so awful. I was like, oh, I have to try this. This is like a dumpster fire, and it was free. So
how would you catch Garfield? Did you have to like throw lasagna at him to catch him? Or?
It was Garfield going on a treasure hunt. You had to find treasures with Garfield, and he was your friend. It was that good.
If you went into the wrong alley, did you have to fight Heathcliff?
I wish. That's the ultimate crossover.
Well, I can think of another way to get out of your comfort zone with Transformers, which is like if you have narrowed collecting habits in any certain way, sometimes you might want to stray outside of your collecting rules. I can one time that I can give two examples I can give to hopefully get you guys on the your own examples. I thought it would be cool to get into collecting animated cells for a moment. And I got a hold of a cool one from, I think it was Heavy Metal War. I actually found the cell, once I had it in hand, I found the episode and the moment it was from. It had the wrong background, but I knew what frame it was or something. But they're so fragile and they're so rare and they're precious, So I didn't end up keeping it, and I ended up selling it after a few months. The other one is at one point I decided I'm character collecting. Okay, I only get this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. People that have been watching the show are sick of hearing about it, but that's what I do. And once in a while, I really want to stray. I want to get Tarn toys, but I don't. Just haven't done it. There aren't a lot of toys, and they're expensive.
What in tarnation?
Where's my hat? I'm in the right area of the country for that.
Right.
The other one was Blue Streak, which to me is
it's a fun one.
It's the ultimate grail, like the Blue Streak. It never even existed as a package sample. So I got the Masterpiece Blue Streak. There was a special release that was the Blue Streak, the Diaclone colors. And I got that. I don't collect Blue Streak. It's not my thing. And I had that for like a few years. I held on to it. It never really grew in value. I thought it might, but they made enough of them. It didn't matter. And I ended up selling it. I kind of regret it now. I kind of still wish I had that. But
that one was actually a really cool looking one, though.
That's what?
I was going to say that Blue Streak was a really cool looking version of him. So, I think I had that back in the day too, because that was a really neat mold as well, that Dotson mold for the Masterpiece. So
It's a good
Maybe they'll
mold.
make a
Yeah, it's
missing
a really
link
good
of
mold.
it. That's what I'm hoping for. Is they'll make a missing link and they'll do like a special edition, with the diphone colors. I would get that just for the heck of it. I'd be like, here's my anomaly. I have this.
That'd be kind
I
of
do
fun.
hope that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
cool if they do a missing link Dotson. So
I gotta say though, with all the reissues and the e-hobby versions and all these special edition things that they've done with the molds over the years, that they never took the initiative to just legit release one using the G1 mold.
like, what do you mean?
Like the blue streak.
I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we
So
got
they specifically skipped.
we got the buzzworthy Bumblebee, Target exclusive for, was that Legacy, or the Legacy mold, or no, Earth, it was Earthrise mold.
Earthrise, but yeah.
And they named it Silver Streak, which was kind of a slap in the OCD face.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's a funny slap in the face. Just like, we're gonna keep the idiocy alive.
It's Rumble Frenzy all over again.
But no, I think that's a natural progression of this topic, is to, like, toy collecting comfort zone crosses, right? Are you actually going to go out of your own toy comfort zone? If you've been watching for a long time, you know that when I first joined the show, I had a very strict rule that I was only going to collect one of every character in Transformers, right? I just wanted one of everybody. I was going to replace characters as I got them, and I was going to have one per character. And I always talked about that as a way to keep my collection from getting out of hand and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
The one version of a particular character, then.
Yes, one version. So I should have one RC toy, for instance, right? Which anyone who follows the Discord and has seen me post my RC collection knows that I have slightly more than one RC figure these days. And at first it bugged me, right? Like, it really bothered me at first. But then what have I been playing with in my hands while we've been doing the show tonight? Well, it happened to be 2 Bumblebees, right? Now, these are technically different characters because it's animated and then whatever the hell this guy is. But, they're both Bumblebee and they both turn into little squatty cars, whatever. And yeah, that was definitely a collecting rule I had. I also had a collecting rule that was that I wasn't going to get any of the older stuff that has really risen in value, that has gotten to the point where you're buying something that really has the value of a mainline deluxe these days as far as play value and the size and the look and everything, but you're paying a lot more for it. And I told myself for years and years I was gonna keep up with that. And then me and Book Club, we did this crazy thing where when the freaking translations for the Kiss Players audio shows came out and we listened to those, I had to complete my Kiss Players collection by getting those cassettes, by getting Kiss Players Position, and those are stupidly expensive.
You got the Kiss.
They were my 40th birthday. I did. I got the Kiss of Death from Kiss Players, and 40th birthday present was to buy myself that Kiss Players Position set to myself. Which was something that I never thought I'd do, right? Like buying vintage figures, buying 3 freaking tiny G1 cassettes for crazy prices. Like good old ouch my wallet. If we had ouch oof my wallet these days, that would have definitely been
Those are special though. That is a great set it was overlooked. The Kiss Player stink affected everything in there for a while. People didn't realize there were cool toys. Even with the Shatterglass Ravage comic, not everyone figured it out. Don't ever try to get Atari Scream. Do not.
Yeah.
I know. That's the next step, right? To get the freaking Atari Scream and just really go off the deep end.
What's the
I bought that a few years ago. It was stupid.
So the main character in Kiss Players was a totally adult woman named Atari who was part of the special police force type deal. And at one point in the Kiss Players storyline, she is temporarily possessed by Starscream. So there was an Atari statue that was made that came with a little tiny version of her Kiss Players partner, the Auto Rooper, right? Because the original Kiss Players toy was big alternator vinyl tech Auto Rooper and little tiny Atari vinyl figure. But this was the reverse of it, right? Big statue of Atari. I don't know if she's that big. She's more like that big, but big statue of Atari, and then a little core class style Auto Rooper guy. I think he was a Legion legend, whatever, at that time. And they made a variant that represented her possession by Starscream, because she usually wears white. And she's all black. She's wearing all black in that one, right? Not Starscream's colors, but.
And her armband has a Decepticon insignia on it, which is super cool. And I love how the TF Wiki is also a blessing upon this fandom that we don't deserve. It's so good. The Atari Scream caption on the main image is like Starscream at his most fabulous. And it's with, I don't know, you just go look at it. It might be somewhat lewd, but it just always makes me laugh anytime I see it. It's so funny.
But
yeah,
she doesn't turn into anything.
No, it's not a Transformer. It's a Transformers product. As a statue. I mean, she turns into herself, but possessed by Starscream. That's a transformation. Possession. As a form of transformation that works.
Paul, I
It's
do
canon.
They could have made her like they could have made her like a flip head thing. That could have been a thing.
They could have.
Good face back tension. I don't know.
They did oh gosh, it was in the Legends comic, they canonized so the Kids players had 3 different partners, right? And they had Rodimus teamed up with a woman named Cao Cao, and in the Legends comic, they brought her back she puts on the armor and she's Firebolt, so that she can be his target master partner. So that she technically has a transforming figure, because you can just think of Firebolt as being her. Which is kind of cool, right? Like, it's a fun way to think of it. I think that's accurate. I think she was the gun, not the headmaster. But anyway, we're talking about stepping out of comfort zones and liking the Japanese Legends comic, not stepping out of comfort zone for me, right? Like that's on brand. I love that stuff. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and I think sometimes too, when you step out of your comfort zone, I mean, sometimes you can kind of get into a new collecting area, right? Because it starts off small, and then it may grow to something else. So.
But then sometimes I don't
Didn't
think you
you
should
have
do
like
it,
a
because
G2 moment, Lucas?
You did.
Sorry, Anna.
I pretty much have all the G2 releases loose, at least. But like, part of that was too is like several years ago, the G2 versions it was pretty cheap. And I know, like, I don't know, a couple podcasts I was listening to, they're like, oh, you should check these out. They're pretty neat. The repaints, like, they're cheap. And so I went and started tracking them down. But yeah, like, again, that's, anytime you get into that, it's like a rabbit hole that just keeps going and going and going. And like, if you just
G2 is a bad thing to collect, man. I mean, the most expensive Transformers of all time are in that wheelhouse.
Right. No, and that's
and
the
they
thing.
were at BotCon.
If you if you had to have everything and you're like, I'm, then yeah, it's tough. I think I said, I just need all the like US releases that were officially released. Like, I'm not gonna do I know there's several, and I guess I'm sure there's crap that I don't have that, like, I'm sure Peter would correct me and say, that I can't remember like certain things or whatever. It's like, they did get an official release, but whatever. I'm not going to go that far down the rabbit hole to, get the pieces that are super duper rare. But
Yeah, I get that.
I know, another rabbit hole that we got into, which is legends collecting, which I got out of and sold my stuff. But I know a lot of you guys, do the third party legends.
I mean, speaking of, I don't. Anytime I get a third party toy, that's stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm not stoked to get it, but I do it.
Yeah, doing this topic, I mentioned that in our chat that's something I always see you do. I always see you get. I especially remember when you bought that 3-pack of the Magic Square Seekers, so that you could get the Magic Square Starscream, and you went in thinking you would hate it, and I think that made you hate it even more than you would have otherwise. Like you really.
Oh, I hate the Magic Square Seeker. I think it sucks. I mean, it just tarnishes. I don't like Magic. I'm going to degrade your company. I don't like it. I like New Age, though. That is one of the few third-party companies I will rep. Like, they are making cool stuff. And
But
I prefer that. I prefer
New
that
Age, honestly, like, it makes me mad because it's like you get like transfer the New Age Starscream, right? And you're like, man, why can't Hasbro make this? Like, why can't I have this of whatever, like a mainline rather than having to, get the $200 masterpiece figure?
It's because a kid can't play with that, They can't without
Right. Yeah.
busting it, or I don't know. That's why.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe someday.
You're entirely right.
That's why. I mean, that should be a core class toy, right? So it should be $10 because that's the size class, not the price. They could bring that down to. I bet they could make that for deluxe price.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is like if you compare the New Age Starscream to the one that they released in whatever Kingdom. Was it Kingdom, I think, or was it Earthrise? Whatever it was.
Yeah. Kingdom.
Yeah.
We did
so
Thieves, then we did Earthrise.
I don't know. I mean, the Kingdom one's not bad, but it's not as good.
Right, yeah, I agree.
Class, right?
What's that?
We're talking about the little core class?
No, I'm talking about the Voyager scale one.
The Voyager?
Like the regular one. I'm saying I would if they could up that to Voyager class and make New Age instead of what was released, that'd be fantastic.
And yeah, I do think that would be really cool. I do think, Paul's entirely right that those toys, the level of transformation, everything's not really accessible for kids. And it's just, they're expensive to make. Like, there's a reason they're not that big, right? Like, if they really, because the complexity of a New Age figure and the complexity of like an MMC figure or like a, X Transbots or whatever are actually pretty similar at this point. If you blew it up to Hasbro size, you would start costing as much as X Transbots figures. So
it wouldn't be as good. It just they're designed at that. Toys are designed at a size, and sometimes when you mess with that, it sometimes they're better. Sometimes
there's a KO company.
They're worse.
There's a KO company that's KOing a lot of New Age, and it really does work. Like they've upped it to like where the New Age figures are about deluxe scale toys at the point where they KO them, and they look fantastic like that.
Why don't you off show? You can point me in the right direction to inspect those, and maybe I'll take a look.
Fantastic! I'll just bring some in my pocket for you. I'll just be like, here you go. I will show you my oversized New Age Starscream. And you'll be converted and be like, oh, he's great.
I love that toy. Sorry.
So,
but I was gonna say, like, as far as stepping out of comfort zones, like Kiss Players back in the day was a good example of like I know quite a few people who have Kiss Players figures in bins right? And they'll never display them. I actually had a friend who saw my Kiss Players display and he could not believe I had those out. He was like, how could you display those things? Oh my goodness. And it's like, okay, he's not a toy collector. He's not an anime toy collector. So he didn't quite, it seemed a little more extreme to him. But
it sounds like sounds like what you're describing is like Viva for Vendetta when that guy has the Quran in his basement, in like a vault. That's where you need your Kiss Players toys if you're a Transformers fan, because you might be branded an infidel and be drug out in the night.
yeah, exactly. And
I feel like you have to display those things at this point. Like it's kind of like this happened, and I'm not. Doesn't mean you support it, but you're not like ashamed of it. It's a rare, weird thing. Some of them are really good.
Yeah, to me, it was a cool moment in Transformers just because it was a moment that Transformers stepped into weird, lewd comedy for a minute, right? Like it was a parody. It was an Evangelion parody that was a lewd comedy delivered mostly as a radio drama, right? That is a weird ass thing to say, oh yeah, that was a Transformers series and it's canon, right? What the heck? Yay!
What is this?
Yeah.
It's a hat. It's a reference. But anyway, yeah. So some people can't display their Kiss Players, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of the same people, or those same types of people getting nervous about buying the Bishojo figures. Right, Kotobukiya did the Bishojo Transformers, and I love them, right? Because I like anime designs, and they're Transformers being turned into attractive girls, which is not exactly progressive in its nature, but they're not dirty. They're not like gross designs by any means. They're tasteful designs, and they're a lot of fun. And they're, the way they do the Transformers references with, the Starscream with her ween purse and the little lights on the Bumblebee shoes to be the headlights. It's fun. But I know there are some people who just like, they would never display those. They might need to buy them because they might be like, well, I'm a Bumblebee collector. I have to have Bumble Girl. And they just put her in a crate. Or I'm sorry, the word is bin, not crate. Crate's where you put your dogs or your potty.
You don't call it crate life, Anna. Okay.
You call it bin life.
Okay. I got a few friends. Like I will take when I get one of the Bishojos, I'm like, oh, check it out, and then now I've got all of them except like I'm not going to get the Thundercracker and the Cliff Jumper and Skywarp, but I have the rest of them. And one of my very pragmatic friends is like, what does your wife say when you bring something like this home? I'm always like, is that that's more of a reflection of you, buddy. But like my wife would not, I mean, she might not, actually, she probably wouldn't want them, to be honest. But I keep them at the office, and they're just part of my like office display. And I mean, I have an office that no one is watching me. So like that's another thing.
I was gonna say, is this the office display that when you do your Zoom interviews and meetings and stuff like that, like you're like, oh, here.
They're behind the computer.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, fair enough.
So you see them, but no one else does.
I'm probably not making a great case for myself within the last 2 minutes, but I just think some of this stuff, it's for fun, and it's different and interesting. And the Autobots, in my opinion, are way better than the Decepticon designs so far. Like Optimus looks good. Like it's a cool take on Optimus Prime.
It is. Yeah, I do think the Starscream is one of the best ones, though. Like I really do like that design. I think it came out really good. The Megatron, not so much.
Megatron, I love Femdom Megatron. It's like a little too much of that. It's like not someone I would date.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much like one of those like running gag anime tropes that I don't particularly like. That like military dominatrix look in anime characters. Like that's just not something that I'm a huge fan of. And yeah.
So
Very
Paul, like,
secret.
I was gonna say, Paul, what made you get into collecting those?
Is character collecting. I mean, it's like, well,
okay.
and if you're doing that, like, this is the kind of stuff you live for, a really different version of the character that you collect. It stands out, on the shelf. And honestly, these are so interesting. I don't think this is the last we're going to see of these designs. I think we'll see them down the road a little bit, like homaging these, like 6-inch characters of it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like from Japan, most likely. But speaking of, like KISS players, we got an American first acknowledgement of KISS players very recently in that 4-pack.
We did.
It's the Auto Rooper. I think they call it Auto Trooper, but you know what it is.
Hey, they give the Auto Rooper head. And like the Auto Rooper head does not make it look right because it needs to be a police car body. But you know what? It was there. They acknowledged it in the stream. That was cool. And you could tell they were being a little cautious about it because they know that it makes so many Transformers fans step out of their comfort zone to talk about KISS players. So they were like, yeah, we're going to acknowledge it, but we're not going to talk about it too much.
The Auto Rooper is the safest way to go to acknowledge KISS players. It's a crazy, weird design. It's very Japanese, and that's where it started. So you can acknowledge that without having to, really dig into why.
Now, if memory serves correctly, I want to say the first reference to that character, at least here in the States anyway, came in the Creon, in the Creo line.
Because they did the Auto Troopers, and that was that before Animated, because Animated had Auto Troopers.
Creo started in 2011,
and Animated started before that. So
the Animated set it had the Auto Troopers. So that was 2009.
What's that now?
Because that's. I don't remember. We need Peter.
Well,
he would know.
Yeah, no, I think Animated was the first acknowledgement, then Creo, and now. So technically, it has been acknowledged in a couple of things, I suppose.
Well, mass retail, anyway.
Yeah, mass retail would have been the Creo, yeah. Because technically, they were the kind of drone guys. Creo was fun. But Creo is another example of getting people to step out of their comfort zone, right? Like, a lot of toy collectors won't buy a building kit, a building block kit, unless it's Lego, right? Like, I grew up in Mega Bloks, so I've always been into buying the kind of off-brandish building block kits. But a lot of people were just like, I'm not going to buy Creo. Those are low quality. It's going to be like build the roll all over again. And then we get our Lego, right? We get our Lego finally, and they're cool. But it's a comfort zone thing again. Or some people just won't do building kits, right? Like, I know there's people who think the Flame Toys designs look neat, but they don't do model kits. So they're kind of like, oh, I can't play with these.
I have a stack of them. I did like the first, 5 or 6, but I just lost steam, and then I backlogged, and I gave up. They're a time commitment. They don't. It's just I had a kid and I couldn't do it anymore.
Right. Yeah, I was
they
much
weren't
the same way myself. Like, I got one, and then I think I sold it to Anna, right? Or did I give it to you? I can't remember.
I think I ended up with it, and then I think because it was it was a jet. I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was a Starscream or Thundercracker or something. But it ended up going to Christian, right? I never put it together. It ended up going to Christian instead. Because he got more into doing them than I did.
Have you guys seen the action on the Flame Toys RC recently? It's like $300.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a sealed, unassembled.
Was it just because it was pretty, like, low run, I guess. Like that's what I would assume is that, you know, whatever, they released it, didn't get great numbers initially, and then you've got the people that had to have them.
Listen, there was some tumultuous discussion around that release, kind of like Windblade.
Right.
And maybe they already had the design ready to go. I think it's an amazing RC design, honestly. Like,
it is. It's really good.
It's so good. It's a little lolly. Like, I don't, you know, I get why people don't like it, and that's okay for them not to like it. But it's a great robot design. It looks like Ex Machina, kind of, you know, like the movie, but it's RC. And yeah, just I know this is totally off topic, but it is great. I just noticed this last week, and I was like, oh my god! And I don't have any of those. Like, those are clearly very hard to find right now. People want.
It's not off topic though, because I think a lot of the reason that one may have gotten underproduced, underbought, whatever, is because of how much controversy Windblade got and how much it pushed people out of their comfort zone. Because I think no one was really questioning it, the Windblade design, until Margaret Scott spoke out about the Windblade design. You know, she was like, I don't like the fact they sexualize my character, right? I think that was what really kind of made people say, okay, we should be against this, right? Like, I don't want to support a version of the character that the person who wrote her personality for the first time is against. So I'm calling this a bad thing. I think the RC continuing that made people nervous, and they didn't buy it, or they didn't buy the Windblade or whatever. I just think that controversy caused it to be a comfort zone issue.
Those kind of controversies are so insular to the super connected fan community, and I'm not saying they don't matter. Yeah. Not saying they don't. I'm not saying they're unvalid or anything, but it happens for a certain time period, and that has a lot of time passes before the thing comes out, and people forget, or the people that weren't there, and they still, and then like remember. I guess what I'm saying is controversy around a toy is always means there's blood in the water, as I like to say. Like, look at MP Exhaust. There's copies of that got out that didn't get nerfed, if you will. And those are some of the most expensive Masterpiece toys that are out there. And they are out there. They're not supposed to be. They destroyed all of them, right?
Did they recall them?
Always destroyed all of them.
Lots of weird stuff happened. I mean, this is a totally different topic, the MP Exhaust, but
there was a reference to the Marvel Wheeljack.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think, like, wasn't there a version that was supposed to come out, and then, like, they ended up changing it, like, right, like, when it did come out, like, a little bit like the Deco.
They changed the deco. They changed the photos. Yeah. They changed the box art. They changed every single thing about that toy. The card, the collector card, the coin. That was the coin. There's an area we had coins to make sure it was a real Masterpiece toy. And it all got nerfed, as I call it, where the trapezoid or the triangle shape that makes the Marlboro logo. Mm-hmm. That was what was on the hood of the toy, and they had to change the shape so it wasn't that exact triangle shape that is a cigarette box.
Mm-hmm.
So they looked at the design and they're like, they looked at the design and they realized their mistake and they're like, it's Nerf or nothing.
Sorry, that was really off topic.
No, but it's not really off topic though, because it's still about should something that is a toy inherently reference a cigarette brand, even if it's like a playful, it's not Marlboro, it's Moobor, a a lot of like cartoons and shows and TV shows and whatnot will make fake versions of brands, right? Just by changing a letter. And it's all in good fun and it's whatever. But, could Optimus play a Nintendo instead of a Nintendo and it would be funny and cute? Sure, whatever. But can he have a cigarette logo on him? Being a toy, being a cartoon character? It makes the companies nervous.
I have an answer for this. I just worry that it'll become the topic of tonight's show. So I don't know if I want to go into that. But putting the Marlboro logo on Optimus Prime is 1,000% not the same thing as releasing exhaust. Okay.
Oh no, you're totally right. You're totally right.
Okay, then that helps me stop from this being a 20-minute argument.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. It was just my quick reference just to kind of explain that whole like putting it on a toy, right?
Okay,
like
they should never do that.
Dumb question if I remember correctly. Exhaust was a new character, right? Like when they did it was essentially a repaint of Wheeljack, right?
Yeah.
It was a Diaclone. Here we go. I told you I didn't want to do this.
Okay.
It was a Diaclone toy it was one of the few, like Blue Street, that never got brought over to Transformers.
Okay.
It's one of the few. Like some of the Skids mold colors never came over to Transformers. Right. The Blue Street never came. And so it had a weird, but sometimes the head would be in like, I don't know, probably in some catalogs or something.
Right.
I can't remember.
Okay. That makes sense then. All right.
It was one of the first. It was one of the first, like, this is a Japan only thing, and it's pre-Transformers, and so it was like one of the first unicorns. Like this is outside of them. This is breaking your comfort zone to get this thing.
Right. Well, and they had several different masterpieces where they've kind of done that same thing, and I am curious because like I have a couple masterpieces still of what Loud Pedal was one of the ones, right? Is kind of like another one where it was, a weird, odd, like recolored kind of thing, too. So I could see where you're getting out of your comfort zone for that, right?
But I think, Anna, you're going to love hearing this come out of my mouth. Like, Takara Tomy is a huge toy company in Asia, right? They're like Hasbro level in Asia. And they sell all sorts of children's toys, things for kids, and some collector stuff. Mm-hmm. But they should not be promoting a cigarette brand, even if it is completely referential to back in the 80s.
Right.
They shouldn't be doing that. But the thing also should fucking exist for everyone that's been around. So this is the one time that I'm like, a third party company should have just fucking done it. Should have just given us the Marlboro or the Marlboro, not Marlboro. Yeah. That was the original thing. That was how they got around it in Diaclone, is they changed the word from Marlboro to Marlboro, like two O's in a row. And that Takara Tomy shouldn't release that thing. Hasbro shouldn't release that thing. Just like you shouldn't have Budweiser Optimus Prime either. You just shouldn't do that. Doesn't mean it shouldn't exist, but in the third party realm, that's not for kids.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
They can't advertise during Peppa Pig to buy this third party toy. All right, that's just never happening. It is very direct to the individual consumer, which is all adults, and that is appropriate for that kind of weird stuff.
I enjoyed everything about that rant. You were totally right. All of that coming out of your mouth, Paul, was perfect.
But I would still argue that Masterpiece isn't really for kids. But I guess that's a discussion for another day, right?
It goes in the toy aisle, though, right? Like, unfortunately, in the U.S., when Masterpiece toys do get released, they go in the toy aisle. And we still probably shouldn't have cigarette brands in toy aisles. Like, that's probably not a thing we should do.
No, I
Probably
would
not.
agree. I don't think that would get released in the toy aisle either, though. So
No parent should have to make it harder to keep their kids from smoking. Like
right, right,
we
right,
don't need anything else influencing them to do that. We don't need
right.
Camel Joe.
Right. Well, shifting
I
things,
agree.
another one I was kind of thinking about too is what about bot bots? Like, do you consider
Oh
that getting out
yeah.
of your comfort zone? Because, like, I know for me, and everyone kind of collected them a little bit different. Part of my thing is getting them for my kids back in the day, but like I didn't collect all of them. Like I actually got a fair amount of them, but a lot of it was to be able to kind of have fun with my kids and have some of those things. But like they're completely their own thing too.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
they're
I
a
think
whole
that's
new
a good point.
universe.
They're their own thing, but they were also just like a very different type of product than we're used to, right? Like there was some blind box, and I think blind box is definitely a comfort zone issue, especially for U.S. audiences, because
Yeah.
in Japan you've always had the gashapon machines, you've always had the blind box figures, like those are not new in that market, especially in the collector's market, the gashapon, like you have to pump money into one of those machines to get your full set of One Piece characters or whatever you're collecting from a gashapon machine. But that's just something that's like kind of new to us. That kind of evolved out of loot boxes and video games, those blind box toys. So BotBots were like, oh, you're Transformers. You can't guarantee which one you're going to get unless you read the little numbers on the bottom and sheet. And then you're looking like the Hot Wheels collectors in the aisles staring at the numbers. But anyway, the whole blind box phenomenon, yeah, that's a comfort zone issue, right? Like,
I feel
and
attacked
collecting
here.
your, that was the, I meant for it to be, yep, yep. But with the bot bots, you had the blind box side, then you had the quantity, right? Like we do get a lot of Transformers. We don't get hundreds from a single line in a couple years, right? Like BotBots came out just like individual figures. There was tons of them very fast. Wasn't each wave like 60 or so? Like I can't remember exactly. I need Christian here so he could tell me exactly
I
the size of the
just
waves.
This is so relevant to my life for the past week. I just bought someone's complete set of bot bots.
How many are
Every
there?
single one. It was like a 12-pound package, and it's
Yeah.
around 400 around there.
And that was just a few years, right? That was
A
just a few
lot.
years of figures. And even though they're tiny, right? Like mini cons were small, but we didn't get that many cons. Micromasters were small. We didn't get that many micromasters, right? Like the quantity was there. The whole like Shopkins little figure collection thing was there. The plastic was different, right? It's not the plastic we're used to with Transformers. It's that softer, more pliable plastic that doesn't transform as comfortably as these mainline figures we're used to buying. Like there was a lot of stepping outside of our comfort zones that I didn't realize was going to happen. I thought BotBots were for me, right? Like when those came out, I was like, they're tiny transformers that transform into silly everyday objects. Oh, that is fantastic. And then, after playing with my first 20 or so of them, I was like, oh God, I don't like these. Oh no.
Well, a lot of people were expecting the McDonald's toys from the 80s, the
Right. Yeah.
changeables. They are far removed from that, from like a
Far
quality and
removed.
size.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend the other day about the quality of our freaking McDonald's toys back then, right? Like those McChangeables, like if you still
Oh.
have them, they haven't degraded. They're in good condition still. They work well. They still move fine. They were nice little toys. The only thing that made them worse than other transforming action figures was they were very simple. That was it. They were fun. They were well sculpted. They were made of nice plastic.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's
Walmart
not
still
as
has good
much.
toys though. Um, but yeah, but yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I think I think BotBots were successful. Kind of rode the last wave of that Shopkins stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like the last throes of by the time they all came out. And like, I don't know. I mean, I think it wasn't super successful, but it was still, pretty fun, and I think a lot of kids enjoyed them. It was kind of like they also had those. What is it? Is it the tiny turbo changers?
Oh yeah, tiny turbo changers.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Yeah, or Creo. I mean, there's all kinds of like, just kind of like little kiddie brands where that I'm sure, kind of depending on what your collecting level is, that maybe some people pick up a couple, or you decide to go down all the way down the rabbit hole.
But tiny turbo changers were also blind bagged, right? Like not true blind
Yeah.
bag, because you could look at the numbers on the back, just like the old Creos, but they were another example of that, like that type of marketing where you just put them on the peg with the, you buy one and it's random, who you going to get type of deal, which is not what we're used to in Transformers. We're used to being able to look through the package to make sure the face paint is actually correct on it before we purchase it.
Man, I saw some well decoed tiny turbo changers, and I was shocked. I was like, those look awesome. Like when they had the sculpts are good. They're just
Right.
you need to paint them.
Yeah, I've painted some of mine and they look great painted. Like they're really cool. Like I didn't expect to like my figure so much more after I painted it. And then I was like, wow, okay, I do like this so much more. I'm not exactly a great painter by any means, but it really did help it because those were good sculpts. They were cool toys, but so many people missed them because they were outside of what they collect.
And you know what? Like when I saw, I was like, clearly there's not a lot of paint on these. They should just market them as paint your own deco Transformers, but they just refuse. It's like they think it's going to be too confusing, and I can see that. Like what is this, a toy or a craft? It's like, dude, it can be both. Lean into it. Lean into it, guys.
And again, that's something our toy market just doesn't really have like a lot of. We now have some, like at Target has model kits now that are mostly Bandai imported model kits. But we just don't have a lot of that like whole craft building model kit toy market in the US. Whereas, sometimes I'll just randomly buy small model kits from Japan because they're fun little things that I can't get in the US. This little Kotobukiya transforming robot guy, right? Like he's a little dude who turns into a T-Rex. That's fun. Like I would love that if that was on our shelves, but it's not. So you get it from Japan. I don't think it would work well in the US because a lot of Transformers fans wouldn't want to build it. They wouldn't think it would be fun to build their little, that figure is probably going to be like core class size, and it's going to be simple and it's going to be cute. If it was pre-assembled, would some people buy it? Sure, but it's not so much.
I mean, I've seen those Flame Toys kits at Hobby Lobby. Blows my mind. Sometimes they have like half-price models. You're like, okay.
They put them on huge sales. They put them at absolutely huge sales to get those sold. I had another good example for me stepping out of my comfort zone, but I lost it. Dang it. Shoot.
Watching the Michael Bay movies in the theater, maybe?
Watching was a good way to remind me that it's reading, and that has been the new comics. I don't read super violent comics. Like that's not a genre of comic I really read. I read a lot of manga. I read horror, I read romance, I read drama, I read some fantasy stuff, but not like anything super hyper violent fantasy stuff. I'm not really someone who just likes to read the heavy violence comics. And the Skybound Transformers run is heavily violent comic books. And I want to stay up on Transformers media. I'm a Transformers podcaster. I've been really into this hobby. A lot of my close friends are other Transformers collectors. I want to stay up on the fiction, but that means I have to read super violent stuff in order to keep really connected. I have to read those G.I. Joe comics that are even more violent than the Transformers comics. I just don't know. Like, it's kind of hard for me. It's not like I get offended by it, but it's just like I don't enjoy it all that much.
is it more violent because it's people versus robot people, or does that just not even phase that difference doesn't matter to you? They're all
If
people.
I
You're
was
all
to,
souls.
I actually thought about it because, early, I don't want to spoil anything, but, we talked enough about the Starscream super violence in the Transformers run, right? We've talked, people have shared the squishy pictures of him squishing humans, and we've talked about it on the show before. So Starscream does some really violent, awful things towards humans and, murders them in the comics. And the thing that got to me about that, as far as like, this is strange for me, is just that, Starscream was always kind of a comedy character that was like fun and amusing in the cartoon, and then he's the super violent guy. Same thing in the G.I. Joe books, right? Very quickly, formerly comic relief characters who were always kind of silly but not succeeding in lots of murders, and the bad guy team were portrayed as just sadistic murderers. And I think it was worse because with Starscream you had this whole element of an alien not really like having much empathy for life forms from another, like the guy who doesn't mind stepping on bugs, right? Like, you may find that kind of like, you may not like that he does that, but you're not going to super hate him because he does that, right? That was kind of the Starscream thing. But when it's humans just awfully murdering and mutilating and displaying body parts of other humans at their house, like that's just different.
But Cobra Law thinks they're above humanity, so they might as well treat them like
I'm not talking
dogs.
about Cobra Law. I'm talking about some humans. Got to read issue 2,
Yeah,
Cobra
I
Commander.
don't know anything about this, so
But
We're
my
not
whole
talking about
point.
characters voiced by Chris Ladas exclusively.
No, we're not. We're talking about
Okay.
other characters. However, I just, my whole point was just the violence level, right? Like, normally I would not read comics that violent, and I'm just doing it because it's Transformers and Transformers related. That's the only reason I'm reading those. I also would not read something with the art quality of Void Rivals, but I'm trying to do it. I'm having a very hard time with Void Rivals. I do not like the art. But it's still
Well,
very
the
good comic though.
Transformers books is sick. They haven't skipped a beat. It's really
Yeah,
good.
the
I
art of the
love
Transformers
all
comics
of it.
are good. The G.I. Joe comics are also good. I just don't like Void Rivals. Like, that's my, I don't dislike the story. I don't dislike the characters. I dislike the art. And that makes it hard. It actually makes it hard to read a comic if you really dislike the art. It comes up for several of our castmates.
I can see that. Well, I know
Like
I have
Elpier.
overall. I was just gonna say we've covered a lot of stepping out of our comfort zone. Like, is there any other examples you want to bring up, or should we go ahead and get going? What's up, Jim? What you got?
I got one comes to mind. We briefly touched on it in the chat that we have with the cast is Transformers Battle Universe. For a period of roughly, I want to say right about 2 years or so, in 2007, Hasbro released a plug and play USB device called the NetJet, and it effectively functioned as uh, I guess as a CD-ROM as far as the PC was aware. But it used a little key, a little game key. And what that would do is when you insert it in there, it would unlock and temporarily download to the device the game. These are just like cheap, low quality games. But the one that I got was the Transformer one,
Mm-hmm.
called Transformers Battle Universe. That also that game also gave us our first glimpse at what would be revealed to be animated Megatron, which at that point had not been seen yet. It was I don't know if it used Flash exactly. I'll have to look again. I don't recall. It's been too long. But there were up to, I want to say, 8 or 10 characters. It was there's Bumblebee, there was Masterpiece Starscream, like the OG Masterpiece Starscream.
Right.
Bumblebee was, of course, the movie version. There was G1 Prime, G1 Megatron that did turn into the gun in the game. There was, of course, animated Prime and Megatron. There was Primal for Beast Wars. There was Megatron from Beast Wars, and then movie Prime and Megatron to choose from as your playable characters. And it was a fighting game.
Yeah, 4 of the 5 Decepticons were Megatron, by the way.
Yeah. And you had all
it
of
was
your
G1 Megatron, movie Megatron, Beast Wars Megatron, and animated Megatron. In Starscream.
Optimuses.
Yeah, only,
there
only
you
two
go, Paul.
Optimuses.
Now you have to go and track this down because there's a Starscream involved. No. All right.
Oh. With that, a lot of people didn't really pick up the NetJet aside from like the same folks that would pick up like a Tiger handheld or something. It was one of those things. Like it was at the store. It was affordable. You know, you could buy it for your kids. They could play it on their home computer or whatnot. It was a thing, you know, and it was around for a couple of years. Hasbro ultimately would end support for it in December of 2009. So beyond that point, the games and the system became unplayable for a time. Enlisting the assistance of a few various folks online, we were able to sort of resurrect the NetJet and the Transformers Battle Universe game. Now I'm assuming that a lot of the other games are playable as well now, but I've only messed with the one. In that when the game was running, the files were temporarily copied over to the folder, and so we were able to, while it was playing, you know, shift. It was like Alt Tab, I think, to switch on Windows. Anyway, jump over to that folder and copy those game files over, and back those up, and ultimately we've been able to resurrect the game. It's playable again if you follow the instructions. There's a link on the TFWiki to a zip file that has the game in it. So if you want to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and try to track down this thing, I'm sure you can find them all over eBay. They're probably cheap and gathering dust, along with the little game keys too.
Interesting.
And in the zip file, I included specific instructions on how to install or play the game in a way that kind of sidesteps the end of service thing for the NetJet. Otherwise, it'll just lock you out into the main menu. And you'll have to uninstall, restart, and everything. But I was able to salvage it. But it is fun.
Well, that is interesting. That is interesting, Jim, because I I'm always very humble about my Transformers knowledge on the show, but I had no idea that existed. I don't even think I knew what a NetJet was. And now I know.
It slightly resembles kind of the SNES, like Dogbone style controller a little.
Okay.
Of course, the game key inserts into the top, and the little thing lights up on the front. It's neat. But yeah, if you go to the TFWiki, to the NetJet article for Battle Universe, at the very bottom.
Yeah, I started looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and one thing I enjoyed about it is you're able to kind of leave the boundaries of the levels in some places. Transformation is primarily used for like special attacks, like you'll transform to attack and then transform right back, type of thing. But yeah, if you can escape the boundaries of the level, then you can wreak all sorts of havoc. You'll have the enemy trying to get to you, and they can't get past the edge of the building, or you can like go up on top of the arc, like the G1 arc is one level where you're like out in front of the bay door, and you can like hop up on top of the ship and climb back into the thruster and stuff, and it's a fun thing.
That's cool.
I would never have bought it had it not been for the Transformer connection, and it was weird, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. They recycled the theme from the Transformers Cybertron that they kept using for a couple of years there before the '07 movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Including the Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. Who doesn't love that one? Was that Paul Oakenfeld or Oakfeld? Wasn't it?
No idea.
Anyway, it was the Cybertron theme.
Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. I feel like a lot of the Transformers games they exist, but people don't even really know about them and don't really play them. And I think a lot of it is just because, as Lucas mentioned earlier, that new game coming out, the I already forgot, Galactic driving car race thing. That new game looks low quality, right? It doesn't look high quality. Because another way you could step out of your comfort zone is a little game called Transformers Battlegrounds, which was a relatively smaller production team tactics RPG style battle game, right? You just play different tactics RPG fights based on with the Cyberverse designs. Or there's Earthrise Expedition, which is another lower budget action game of Transformers. And I think a lot of us just don't step out of our comfort zone. We like to play, the big games and just play these smaller. They're not bad in particular. Mm-hmm. They're just closer to indie games. Like, not really. They're not indie games, but they're closer in like scope of being simpler and not as impressive. But they're out there. You could play them if you really wanted to. Really needed to play some Transformers, or you go get yourself a NetJet.
There you go. All right, well, thank you guys for joining me tonight, and thanks to everyone in the chat. Do want to mention book club this week is Sunday night at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern on the TF Talk Discord, and you guys are discussing Transformers 39 and War's End #1. Is that right? I think is what it says.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Do you normally read the comics before book club, or do you do it like during book club?
Oh, before. We read before and then we discuss.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I'll be honest, like many book clubs nowadays, now that we've been established for a while, like 20 minutes of our book club meeting as we discuss the comic, and the other like 3 hours as we just chat as friends. Because that's what all book clubs turn into, right?
Right. Well, cool. But yeah, we'll go ahead and check that out. I do want to mention next week, I think we'll probably have a pre-record because I'm going to be off on vacation myself. So I think Phil will probably be hosting, or Anna or someone, and we'll probably more than likely put a pre-record up by the end of the week. And then I'll be back the week after. So yeah. But thank you guys for joining me, and thanks to everyone in the chat, and we will see everybody next week.
Thanks, everyone.